welcome to PWE Music. I'm Dr. Patrick Engler, and today we're going to be talking about some steps for audition success. So, with the beginning of school coming up, I'm sure many of you are probably preparing for auditions, whether it's for placement auditions in high school, or all-state, or district, or regional, all sorts of different levels of bands, or maybe it's college or otherwise. We're going to talk about some steps that you can take when you're preparing and when you're in the audition room to hopefully bring you a little bit more success. So let's get started. The main thing we're going to cover first is consistency is key. So when you're preparing, you want to make sure that you're practicing with the intent to make whatever you're working on as consistent as possible. And a main way that we talk about gaining consistency is using a metronome. This is the big one. So use the metronome to get a consistent rhythm, consistent tempo, and everything else kind of sits on top of that. But for whatever aspect of the music it is, whether it's a difficult passage, whether it's the tempo, whether it's dynamics, articulation, anything, you want to practice with the goal of consistency rather than just trying to make it up as you go. Now, it may feel stale to you after a while, but the way it comes off to the listener is that it's much better put together if it's consistent and well controlled, rather than you're trying to improvise on the spot and do something different every time. Consistency is key whenever you're practicing for an audition. The next thing we'll talk about is a little bit of a mindset change. So a lot of times when we're preparing for an audition, we have the idea that we want to get everything that we absolutely can, leave no points off the table, absolute perfection. And that's a good goal. But it's also important to be realistic and recognize that's not always possible. In a lot of cases, will not be possible based on a potential judging panel. So rather than try and stuff everything in the suitcase right away, you want to pick your battles, pick what's most important to you, and start with that. What do you want to communicate in the music? And make sure that's there. If you can start from the bottom and build up, making sure that everything that you want is in there, and then whatever else you have time to add on top of that also can be in there. What you do present will be a well-rounded, consistent package compared to something that's just kind of like odds and ends thrown together. At the end of the day, remember, consistency is key, and so if we can make what we want to be in there really consistent and good, we'll have a much better chance of success. The next step we can take in preparing is having the mindset that the judges that will be listening don't have the music in front of them and don't know what the piece you're playing is supposed to sound like. So this isn't an excuse to do weird things or make mistakes. Really what we're doing here is working towards playing with clarity and intention. And so our ultimate goal should be, even though they don't know what it's supposed to sound like or they have the music in front of them, they're going to understand what you're trying to do with all of your expressive elements and everything that you're doing in the music. Nothing should sound like it's a mistake or just thrown off. We always want to have, like I said, intention and clarity in what we're doing. And imagining that the judges don't know what you're playing or don't know what it looks like will really help in how you prepare. So when you're listening back or when you're working on something, you're really going and striving to make sure that it's very apparent what you're trying to do, especially if you're doing something a little more unique. Building off that, our next step is a classic, and you probably have heard it before, but that's because it works, and that is use a friend. Friends, family, don't be afraid to play in front of anyone who you can get to listen. And if nothing else, just get out the jitters of playing in front of someone else. However, if we think about what we've already talked about, now you've got some guided questions that you can ask and hopefully get some good feedback on if what you're doing is clear and consistent, and making sure that you're getting across what you want to get across. The final step we'll talk about today is to have a long-term view. And so win or lose, every audition you take is going to be experience. And if you can reflect on it and learn from it, regardless of the outcome, you'll be moving forward. So even if it's not the outcome that you were hoping for or that you worked for, be honest with yourself about your preparation and your mindset going in. But at the same time, don't be too hard on yourself. Give yourself a break. Keep working towards your goals and have a long-term view that one audition isn't going to make or break anything. You can always keep moving forward, and there will always be another audition. So that about covers it for audition success and how to prep for a successful audition. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to address them. Like, subscribe, do the social media things. Check out the Patreon if you're so inclined, and we'll see you in the next one. If you made it this far, thanks for watching through the entire video. I hope it was helpful. Normally this is where I have a card with links to my Patreon and my Etsy, but I wanted to take a second to give you an idea of what you're going to find at both of those. For my Patreon, there's one level, $5 a month, and that's to help keep these videos coming out. I know lessons can be expensive, and I want this information to be able to be found regardless of your situation, whether you can take lessons or not. The $5 a month also gets you access to a PWE Music Discord server, which if it's not up when you're watching this video, it should be soon. And as of right now, that's just an opportunity to ask me questions, get my thoughts on things, and hopefully as the community grows, you'll be able to get in touch with clarinetists and musicians from around the world. At my Etsy shop, you'll find custom woodworking, and applicable to this are custom reed cases. So as a woodworker, I enjoy making accessories for musical instruments, and everybody should have a reed case if you don't. And not that you need to have a fancy custom one, but I do offer 3D printed reed cases as well as custom wood cases. So hopefully you'll check out either one, give some support to the channel, and I'll keep these videos coming.